Well, hello and welcome to Transform Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software. And today we're going to be going over an aspect of Alpha Transform that we get a lot of questions about, and that is the on-device assets. In other words, bringing things with you into the field when you don't have connection that you could use as reference and for other reasons. And today we're going to show you how to take advantage of that. But before we get started, I want to make sure that people can see my screen and they can hear me because I am flying solo here today. So if you could just let me know if you could see my screen or if you can hear me. Just type into the questions box. That would be great. And then as soon as I see confirmation, I'll go from there. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, so let me see where I am. I think I'm down here at slide 154. Zoop. Here we go. Today we're going to talk about on-device data. What is it? How do you load it? How do you access it? So on-device data is Transform's ability to keep files of all different kinds, including a SQLite database file, on your device when you do not have internet connectivity. And there are a couple of really good reasons for doing this. One is if you are performing repairs, for example, on a piece of equipment, and you're at a place where you don't have internet connection, you might want to be able to look up a repair manual that you bring with you. Likewise, there might be videos. From the SQLite point of view, there's actually quite a few reasons perhaps that you would want to go digging through a SQLite database on your device to look things up. You might be looking up part numbers, you might be looking up historical information about a customer. There are lots of different use cases for that. But today we're just going to show you how to do it. So starting with on-device data, let's start with how do you actually add the data to your phone. And in fact, I'm going to start with an example of actually on-device data in action, sort of to keep this lively. So let me go ahead and see if I can mirror my phone. Looks like it's working. And now I need to go to Transform. And now here we are in Transform. So here's my phone, and I have created a really ridiculously simple application, just two buttons, and those two buttons each open a different asset that I might want to refer to while I'm using Alpha Transform. The first is a PDF manual. And so I found a PDF manual online for a Zamboni, which is used for resurfacing ice. I chose it just because I like the word Zamboni. But anyway, you could see how this could be very useful, having the the exploded diagrams, the parts list, the names of the parts, as well as service instructions all here. And you can load as many PDFs pretty much as you want. They're not that big, so you could probably hold hundreds of them if you needed to without worrying about using up all of the device's available memory. The other thing I've loaded is a repair video. So I'm going to go ahead and click the repair video. And this actually plays really nicely. This is in, I don't know how well it's going to stream over GoToWebinar, but on my screen here, this is a full 30 frames per second HD video. In this case, it is showing me how to replace brake pads. So I'm going to go ahead and end that. So you can include these videos. And one thing you might think about doing in your application is actually setting it up so that the correct videos and the correct repair manuals are available based on the item that the person is actually working on, as opposed to making them dig through a full library. So that's just a suggestion. So how do you actually do it? So there are three things that you need to do in order to add assets to your phone. And the first thing is you need to put the files onto a server that's accessible via the internet. So that might be a bucket on S3. If you already have an Alpha Anywhere application server, you might use that as your file server for that. You could certainly put it on some sort of low-cost hosting platform. You can host it yourself if you wanted to, but you have to be able to get those assets and put them someplace that you could download them. Dropbox would also work. If you wanted to use Dropbox, you could do that as well. The second thing you need to do is you need to add the files to the manifest in Transform Central. So you're probably wondering, okay, what is the manifest and how do I add to that? The manifest is here in Transform Central. I'm just going to show you a screenshot of it. And that's where, and you'll find it here on the Home tab of Alpha Transform. Once in the Home tab, if you click on Define On-Device Assets, this box here will appear. And I agree that this is rather clunky, and we're going to make this a much nicer interface. But as of March 12th, 2019, when I'm giving today's webinar, this is the interface that you need to use if you want to add assets to your device. And it's actually not that hard, so I'm going to dig into it just a little bit. So on the next one, I've taken what I've done here and I've put it in a monospace font, so hopefully it's easier for you to see on your screen. And basically what I've done is I've created a JSON array. So this array has got two main elements in it, and the first one is the repair manual for the Zamboni, and the second one was the video on fixing brakes. And in it, we've got 4 different pieces of information that TransForm is going to need. The first is the URL. That should be obvious. That's where you've actually placed the file that you'd like to access. And in this case, I've just placed it right on the Alpha software server. I've placed a file called zambonimanual.pdf. And I've also created another one called breakfixvideo.mp4. In all cases, the type is going to be file. And the target folder, this is up to you. I decided to create a subfolder just to keep things organized called PDF docs for my PDFs and one called videos for my MP4 files. And then the last one is the version. And the version is used to determine whether or not the assets need to be updated. Now, my break fix video, for example, was 50 megabytes. It didn't take terribly long to upload to my phone, but if I was on a slower connection, that could be kind of a pain. So I don't want to have to upload it every single time I open up TransForm. So by versioning it, you can just tell it, oh, I have the current version, don't worry about it. Now I'm going to back up here to this adding assets slide. The third thing that you need to do, and this is the thing a lot of people forget when they're first doing it, is you need to actually log out of the mobile app and then log back into the mobile application. Once you do that, the files will be loaded. So in summary, to put the files, you need to put the files on a server. You need to define this, where the files are located, and a target folder if you want, and a version. And you need to put that into the define on-device assets. And then lastly, you need to log out and log back in. Okay, now the devices are on the phone. The question is, how can you access them? Now, if you watched last week, I covered a application that used a TPL command called the in-app browser. And the in-app browser lets you open up, launch a map or launch a Google address or something like that. Excuse me for a moment. Sorry, just getting over a cold there. But today, instead of in-app browser, we're going to use another TPL command called file viewer. Now, file viewer takes one parameter, and that is which file. And if you recall, my PDF manual was called zamboni.pdf, and I placed it in PDF docs, so that would be the path to get to that one. And then for opening up the video, I'm just going to do file viewer and then my video. Let me show you how that is defined, just in case you weren't here last week. Here we are back here in Alpha TransForm, and I'm going to go into the designer, and I'm going to go to my example, my on-device example. And we're going to take a look. Well, let me show you first of all how this is defined. It's basically just 2 buttons. One button is called Open Repair Manual, and the other one is called See Repair Video. So back here in the designer, I'm going to make sure that this Advanced Features section is open, which I'm going to do here. I'm going to scroll down, make sure that Enable Custom Code for this form type is set to yes, and then I'm going to click on Edit Custom Code. So if I click on Edit Custom Code, here are the 2 controls that I have, each of them a button, and I click on the button to define what code I want to have happen when I click on that button. And here's where I've placed in the File Viewer PDF docs. I can actually magnify that for you so you can take a look. And that, all right, that was crazy. Sorry about that. There we go. Hopefully you can see it. But anyway, here's that File Viewer command that I was talking about. That's the one for the PDF, and here's the one for the video. And really, that's all there is to it. Do we have any questions or anything on using on-device assets? If so, now would be the time to enter them in. If not, I have one other thing that I would like to cover, actually just briefly mention because we're really going to cover it next time, and that is SQLite. So I talked here about, I've shown you an example which used a PDF file, I've shown you an example which used a video, but what about a SQLite database? Now, if you tuned in maybe 5 weeks ago, we had Nikos Kazantsis, who is one of our solutions engineers, showing off his equipment inspection example. And his equipment inspection example did use a SQLite database. And I actually have a copy now of that SQLite database. If you would like it, you could send an email off to tfservice@alphasoftware.com, and I'll provide it for you. Basically, it's a single file that ends in a DB. But what I want to show you here is I want to show you Nikos's sample code just to show you how that got put together. So last week I covered in-app browser. This week I've covered the file viewer, but there's this other command in TPL called PhoneGap get tf execute SQL. I know it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it is a TPL command and it takes two parameters. One is the name of the SQLite database that you have placed on your device using the manifest technique I showed you earlier today. And the second is the actual SQL command. And in this case, he's just done a simple select site code, site name from sites. Now I realize out of context, this doesn't make a lot of sense. What he's trying to do here is take a site code and look up, actually what is he doing? He's selecting everything, it looks like. Select from sites, right. And he's returning it back here into an array, and at the end he's got a whole list of sites, and you can go through, he has some logic that goes and finds the right one based on what the person has chosen. So this basically just populates a drop-down list. I'll show you how to do that later. I'm not going to get into that this week, but I just wanted to let you know that's there in case you want to get a head start. Again, this is found in the equipment inspection example that we did a few weeks ago, and I think most of you here have that. If you would like access to it, do send me an email, tfservice@alphasoftware.com. So that covers pretty much everything I wanted to go over today. There's not a lot to on-device assets and making them work, but it is a powerful feature. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them, and if not, we can break until next time. And next time, like I said, I hope to go over using SQLite using TPL. Well, that looks like it. Hey, thanks very much, everyone, for attending. Hope to see you next Tuesday at the next Transform Tuesday. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.